All right, welcome everybody. Glad to have you all here in this month of February. We're going to be talking today about how the pandemic is shaping clean living resolutions. And I'm going to throw my camera on here, and we will get started in just a second. There we go. Always good to see everybody. Welcome to another Insights Now webinar. A little bit of background before we get going here. So Insights Now, we've been doing this resolution review for clean label enthusiasts for about the past 4 years. And this year we decided to change it up a little bit. We did our typical approach to understanding resolutions that clean label enthusiasts are making, but we added a couple of new pieces this year. One is we went to non-clean label enthusiasts. So looking at then to see if there's a different perspective coming in, as well as we took time with clean label enthusiasts to spend a little bit more time talking about their future and what their hopes and dreams were for the future, because we know that the pandemic has really changed a lot of things for people and has really reshaped a lot of resolutions that people are making. And so we wanted to get a little bit better handle on what the future holds. And so we'll be talking about those two pieces quite a bit today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Greg Stuckey. I'm the Chief Research Officer at Insights Now. And here at Insights Now, we love to focus on human behavior. And my goal always in these education opportunities is to help you change a little bit of the way you might look at humans and think about them from a behavioral standpoint rather than just from an attitude standpoint or a demographic standpoint. Really understand what's driving their behavior at the end of the day. And all of that geared around helping companies build better, innovative products, really wanting to help make sure that we can get fast to market with the right types of products that actually impact people's behaviors and make their lives better for the end of the day. During the course of the webinar, participate with me. There's a question box on your screen. Go ahead and get started. Type a few things in here. Tell me about your resolutions. Did you make resolutions at all this year? If you didn't, hey, let me know you didn't make any as well. But tell me about some of the things that you're going to be focusing on, and that'd be help us get going on some conversation pieces as well. If you have any problems or have any other issues, just type in your challenge into this window as well, and we'll help you out as needed through the course. So I mentioned we expanded our research this year. We talked with clean label enthusiasts, and clean label enthusiasts are people who are really passionate about healthy ingredients. And we've built an algorithm that looks at their behavior specifically, so we understand these are people whose behavior really is impacted by the ingredients and specifically by their desire for clean and healthy ingredients. And they're an important group of people because in the US, that group has grown from 15% of the population to now over 33% of the population in the past 4 years. And that growth is really a driver of why we see all these clean label products trending heavily in market right now and are continuing to grow. And actually that 33% is low for on a global basis. Many countries are in the 40-50% range as far as clean label enthusiasts within the population of their countries. So we did two parts to the study. First was a tracker that looked specifically at the resolutions, having people just write their resolutions out, and that was 116 people, and another 106 where we did a qualitative deep dive on what their hopes and dreams were for the future. And then we added non-CLEs, and these are primary shoppers. We asked them about their resolutions as well. And this is the same tracker survey that the clean label enthusiasts took. And we had 100 people in that particular survey. So give you a sense of our size. One of the things that's really true about resolutions in general is that they're quite varied. They're constantly changing. The types of people who make resolutions one year don't make resolutions the next year. Their resolutions themselves change. So a few of the numbers, 40% made a resolution in 2021, so of clean label enthusiasts, that's just across the board. 40% made a resolution. 70% of those resolutions are food resolutions. Most of the rest of the 30% are something either financial or related to general exercise, not necessarily specific to food. And then 41% of the 40% had made resolutions in 2020. So not even half the people are repeating their resolutions, if you will. And then of that 41%, 54 of those said the resolution is different. So if you kind of run all those numbers down, you have a very small portion of the population who are making the same resolutions year on year. For the most part, these are continually changing. So because they're continually changing, we can use these as a way to understand how what could be happening in the future. What are the types of trends that we're seeing, or commonalities in resolutions that we're seeing? They're going to drive people's behavior forward. Now, resolutions, food-specific resolutions, is continuing to decline. Over the past 4 years, we went from 67% of clean label enthusiasts making food-related resolutions in 18, all the way down now down to 28%. So we're seeing a really sharp decline. Last year was a pretty good decline, and that was right at the start of COVID. Now we're well into strong COVID time periods, and you can see that resolutions are coming down and down and down, and even the non-CLE food and beverage related resolutions are at a similar level. And why is this happening? Well, the number one reason that we saw when we talked to people who said, no, I just didn't make one this year, was that number one, there's people who just have plenty of self-confidence and they don't need them. That's a small piece. But there's also this shorter term focus that a lot of people are gaining now. So I don't need, I'm just happy. I do the best. I help when I can, or I go smaller, less dramatic action steps towards living a better and better and better life. And some of that self-confidence, shorter focus also comes from the fact that, hey, in the past, they had lack of success, or there's maybe even some future fears going on, a small amount as well of that. So that lack of success is the second reason people don't make resolutions. Hey, there's so much going on wrong with the world. I just don't feel positive. I don't feel I will be able to stay motivated long enough to keep my resolution. Because and I quit setting them up years ago because I got so disappointed that I could never keep them. So it's really interesting opportunity for us to understand as innovators that people are starting to take a tighter and tighter and tighter view of what makes behavioral success. So what does this tell us? This tells us that while resolutions are low, and there's some really great stuff within those resolutions, the people who aren't making resolutions still can be a good source of information for us. And specifically, it's that, can you keep things tight? Can you keep things short focused? Now, that being said, making resolutions is actually a pretty good way to help create behavior change. One of the fallacies that we often hear, or myths that we often hear, is by the second week of January, nobody's kept their resolutions. They're all done, if you will, for the year. That's really not the case. We talked to in our deep qualitative deep dives with clean label enthusiasts. We talked to those who were making the resolutions and saying, well, how good are you doing on your resolutions? And you'll see that, this is the last week of January, only 7% gave themselves a D or an F, or a below average score. Majority of people say, I'm doing all right. A small group of people, 1 in 5 were saying, hey, I am knocking it out of the park. So really, it's actually a pretty good way to change behaviors to set yourself a goal or a resolution for the year. Okay. So let's get into some of the biggest food-related resolutions for 2021. One of the top resolutions that we saw this year was more fruits and vegetables. This is the second year as one of the most commonly stated resolutions that people were making. And what's really exciting is that non-CLE, non-clean label enthusiasts, also have this as a top resolution. And you can see a little bit of the trend over time. Adding more fruits and vegetables was 18% of the resolutions in 19, 34 last year, and 24% of the people that made a resolution had it as part of their food and beverage resolution this year. And non-CLE are right there, 28% of them. So what's really interesting in that is that fruits and vegetables come in lots of different types of scenarios, right? So we can capitalize on that in a lot of ways. All right, now the next one that's really fun is reducing carbs. Last year we had this huge spike in people focusing on sugar, getting rid of sugar and calling sugar out specifically. But what we're seeing is that reducing carbs in general is replacing just reducing sugar. So kind of we're upping the game, and I think people are getting a little bit more educated, and that's rolling over into the resolutions that they're making. So you see this year, the conglomerate of reducing carbs is 27% of resolutions for CLE and 36% of resolutions for non-CLE. What's really interesting is the specificity that's starting to come out. And let me first go to sugar though. So one of the things we saw with reduced sugar last year was this really big spike. See that at 36%. And the prior years, 18%, 18%. We're back to that same level it was. So last year, that reduced sugar focus that was specific to sugar really was a spike. And we're back now into more of a typical level for people wanting to reduce sugar. But what we're seeing is we're getting a lot more specific about the types of carbs people want to reduce as well. So we see non-CLE, their number one is candy and sweets. Getting that down. Baked desserts, that came up really big. Those are, cookies and cakes and all of those types of things. What I find fascinating about this is think about what's happened during the course of the pandemic. People are staying at home. They're cooking in their houses more. They're baking more foods. They're baking more carbohydrate-oriented dishes, desserts in their homes. And so we're starting to see, baked dessert type products now is a pretty big number, 10, 11% here, 11, 12% of the population are getting rid of that or wanting to reduce that in their diets. Bread, I don't know why no CLE have bread specific related resolutions, but nobody did. But 10% of the people in the non-CLE group had a goal to reduce the bread in their diet as well. Potato chips, sugary drinks round out, and there's a sundry of other very specific things. We saw ice cream for a couple of percent of people, et cetera, so forth, all falling into these areas where they were calling out carbs like this, carbs like that. So what's interesting is that, remember this whole short-term focus that I talked about. What we're hearing when we read through these resolutions and we talk to the clean label enthusiasts specifically is that carb reduction, it's this big broad area, and so we got to start with small wins, right? And so each person is getting much more specific, right? It's getting a little bit tighter and tighter as they go in, carbonated and sparkling waters, right? That help me reduce my soda intake, eating too many snacks and convenience foods and instead of making time to cook wholesome meals. These small wins that help you say, well, where can I pull a little bit more carbs out of my diet? It's not just like, hey, I'm going to stop drinking soda. No, it's just some replacement elements here and there. It is changing up a little bit of how you're doing your convenience foods. All right. Some other things that we saw specifically with improving carb load, this idea of beverages came up a number of times, and there's both reducing unhealthy beverage as well as adding healthier beverages so that a replacement, whether it's a reduction or an addition, is coming into play. And if we look at just people talking about sweetened beverages, quote, unhealthy sweetened beverages, and a lot of just straight juices got lumped into there because last year juice was a big trend, drink more juice, and then all of a sudden people go, wait, how do I drink more juice if I'm trying to reduce my sugar, because juice has a lot of sugar in it. Even though it's natural, even though it's clean, it's still really high. So they want to balance that out. They want to create that balance. And what we're seeing is that adding healthier beverages has been consistent for the last 4 years, and reducing unhealthy beverages, both CLE and non-CLE, in that same vein. And CLE a little bit more on the unhealthy side, because they have an attitude that's a little bit more of an avoidance attitude, versus non-CLE, which have a little bit less behavior around specific ingredients. Right. All right, so the third big trend is, and this is where the biggest differences between CLE and non-CLE really come into play, is rethinking meat. And what does meat mean? So meat was really centerpiece to one of the same overarching goals, which is to have healthier diets. However, the way they're accomplishing that is different. So the clean label enthusiasts are saying, hey, I'm going to eat healthier by eating less real meat and increasing my plant-based meat, whereas non-CLE are resolving to eat leaner animal-based meats. And so this is really, I think, one of the most fascinating pieces of findings that we had this year, as we saw that alternative meat, plant-based meats trend is obviously blowing up in a great way in the industry right now. So you can see here on the far left side, 2% of non-CLE are saying reduce meat, but 11% of clean label enthusiasts are. But more lean meats, this is the animal meats. So 18% of non-CLE are saying I'm doing more leaner meats or proteins, and only 5% of the CLE are in that bucket. And then more alternative meats, plant-based meat alternatives, it's 11% with CLE, and nobody from the non-CLE space is putting that as a resolution yet. What's really interesting, though, is that if we look just at CLE, last year was the first year we saw any resolutions at all about meat alternatives. And so last year that was at avoiding meat was 5%, more meat alternatives was at 3%. This year it's up to 11% in both. So we're certainly seeing the trend. We know that buying of plant-based meat alternatives is very much on the rise. And when it goes from just buying to actually going to a behavioral where you're setting a goal for yourself for the year to change your diet using plant-based meats, that means they've gone from, hey, I'm going to give it a try, to saying, I'm going to make a lifestyle change. So when we see this tipping point start to happen, we know that this is a really important, not just a blip, if you will, but here starting to be something that's here to stay for a while. All right, so now resolutions around meat also align with people's belief systems, and we really have two different viewpoints on plant-based meats that we saw come out when people talked about what they thought about plant-based meats, why it was working. There's one group of people that's not excited about this plant-based hype, and what they're viewing these plant-based meats as something that's unnatural, if you will, as fake. It's built some sort of a built, highly processed food, and it can't be good for you if it's highly processed. So they're really more into the, I'd rather have it raw, I'd rather have it create it myself, I'd rather have it look like a recipe. So any of the plant-based meats that have that highly processed viewpoint to them are going to be looked at very negatively by that group of people. And that's a mix that covers both clean label enthusiasts and non-clean label enthusiasts. But then there's the other side of the equation where plant-based really improves everything, right? They have a huge amount of trust that's coming from the vegan population. People who are not vegans are looking at that going, well, if the vegans who are like way out there, if they trust that plant-based meats are good, then I guess I'll trust them too, because it's, they're really on top of whether it's good for the environment, whether, they're more radical that way than I am. But if they are saying it's good, then I'll trust that it's good. So there's this trust coming from that point of view of the vegan population saying, hey, yeah, these things are actually pretty good for you, and and this is better for the environment. This is taking better care of the environment, and so we're getting a lot of traction in people's attitudes towards plant-based meats coming from all of that social space. All right, now there's a bunch of other trends as well that are important to keep in mind or watch. Reducing salty snacks continues to be a consistent amount of people year on year. It's 12% of non-CLE, 16% of CLE want to reduce salty snacks in their diets. Fewer carbonated colas consistently staying in there as well. This was 18% of non-CLE and 11% of clean label enthusiasts calling out carbonated cola drinks specifically. Our assumption, we didn't really dig too deep into that this year, but our assumption is they're specifically focusing on the sweetened versions of that because the reduced carb, reduced sugar piece is so high. Lower fats, also a fairly consistent trend that we see year on year, and that is 14% of clean label enthusiasts, only 6% of non-clean label enthusiasts here, so a little bit lower on that area for those groups of people. And more water is still important. This year it continued to drop. It's been dropping for quite a while. 10% of non-CLE and 8% of CLE are saying, hey, I'd like to drink more water or add more water to my diet. So snacking alternatives, just a little bit, so you can see how that trend is going a little bit over time here. It's been fairly consistent. 2009 came down a little bit in terms of reducing snacking, but been fairly consistent. Water resolutions, again, been dropping a little bit here. We were back in 2018, 2019, water was a really big part of the conversations that were happening out there. And last year we saw it drop to 12%, this year 8 and 10%. So a fairly consistent downward decline there in terms of what's been the focal point of resolutions. All right, so let's jump over, let's move from then the tracking information into a discussion on clean label enthusiasts' hopes and dreams. So we sat down with, ended up being 106 people, had them tell stories about what was working with their resolutions, what wasn't working with their resolutions, and then specifically from these clean label enthusiasts, we wanted to know, well, what's the future look like? What are your hopes and dreams for how you want to see companies innovate, how we want society to change, et cetera, so forth within this next year? Given all of that, what would we like to see happening? So as we kick this off, I'd like to know what your hopes are for the future. What would you personally like to see in terms of clean label foods? Like if you had a dream, drop it in here, drop it into that question section. Go ahead and let me know what are some of the things that you're hoping for in terms of clean label foods. And we'll talk about those as I go through what the clean label enthusiasts talked about. I'll come back to yours and let's take a look at what you said as well. So the first big common set of conversations that we had was around environmental transparency. We had, over the last few years, this eco-anxiety, right? It's been really causing a lot of stress, if you will, in our nation, in the world. The U.S. isn't near as dramatic, if you will, about it as some other countries have been, where they've been having real problems with their environment as well. But certainly one of the things that has captured a lot of people's attention is the ability to have more environmental transparency. So they're excited by that. They want to see more traceability. They want to know when they're looking at fresh fruits and vegetables, what farms those vegetables and fruits came from. They'd love to know where that came from. They'd like to know that the farmers have certified farms, right? That they're taking care of the animal, taking care of the animals as well as they could. So that covers everything from the products itself to the packaging that the foods come in. The next one we have is improved accessibility. So accessibility, this is really a COVID-driven hope. So one of the things that's happening is as clean label foods are coming out more and more and more, they're getting harder and harder to find in physical grocery stores, and because there's just only so much space that's available. And so there's for instance, tons of brands of plant-based meats available, and they're not all stocked in all stores, as you could well imagine, right? It's a pretty common thing. So we're starting to see this desire for improved accessibility to all of the types of products that are out there and available. People want to see mainline companies adding to their product lines. They want to see mainline grocery stores improving their portfolios and driving the clean label quotient, if you will, up. Rather than just having the small natural foods section, really make it a focal point of all of the sections of the store. Another thing that is very, very tightly connected to the pandemic here is balancing convenience and health. All these people at home, working from home, cooking a lot more meals, now are realizing I need a lot more convenience in my home, because doing all the cooking all the time is really wearing me out. And so one of the things that's just fascinating to me was the number of people who asked for frozen meal considerations. And this quote was one of my favorites, right? I'd like to see more simple ingredient nutrition frozen meal options. When was the last time you heard, hey, center a store, improve your products? I want more innovation in center a store. We haven't had that in a long time. So this hope for more convenient quality frozen meals, et cetera, so forth, is really a shift and a change. And it's a lot of it has stemmed from the beverage section, where people really were, in the clean label enthusiasts 4 years ago, people spent a lot of time talking about how they were making smoothies, creating their own specialty drinks, et cetera, so forth. Well, now the convenience of kombucha and smoothies and sparkling specialty drinks are all in the stores and easily available to people. So they're saying, well, if it's happened in beverages, why not make it happen in other sections of the store as well? So balance that convenience with the health. Another big piece, again, very highly tied to the pandemic, is the realization that our kids really don't have the education they need about clean label foods. And what's happening here is as the kids are in home, they're seeing the clean label foods. We're starting to realize, as those parents are starting to realize, as their kids then go to restaurants, as they go back into school, they're going, well, wait a minute, where's the products that my parents were telling me about? They're looking at the labels going, oh, wait, well, this isn't really that good for me. And so there's a real hope and a dream that we will improve our food education for our kids beyond just what the traditional approach to nutritious balanced diet has been, but really getting into the underlyings of what does it mean to have a quality, good, clean label food, good, clean label snacks, etc. And then finally, expanded clean label innovation. During the pandemic, manufacturers stopped dropping new innovative products on the market, as would be typical in big recessions. It's hard to do when you're just trying to keep everybody safe, right? But people noticed, and people were saying, hey, I haven't really seen a whole lot of innovation, and I'm excited to have that innovation hit the store shelves again. And we had talked in our clean label or in our COVID tracker with clean label enthusiasts that time was coming, and it really hit around the end of 2020, where people were starting to really change their opinion from, yeah, I'd like to see a little bit of new innovation, to, hey, I'm ready. I've I've been in living the COVID world for a long enough period of time. I need some excitement. I'm ready to get those brand new innovative products. I'm ready to try new things. And especially if you tie that with accessibility, right, then you can really put those pieces all together and have successful innovative launches right now. All right, so let's move. Let's have a poll. Those are the big hopes and dreams. I'm going to launch a poll here. I want to know which of the hopes and dreams really are the things that you personal or you think in terms of the industry are going to have the greatest impact. So which of the hopes and dreams that that we have walked through here are really going to have that great industry impact? So go ahead and start clicking on which ones you think. You can check as many as you think really are going to be impactful. Would love to hear everybody's opinions. So. And if you're just sitting there waiting to see what other people say, you got to get in there. Take some time to do that yourself as well. All right. All right, where my polls go? Okay, I am going to close the poll right now and post that just so that everybody can see it. So it looks like convenience and health, as well as expanded clean label innovation, are the top two there. That's certainly really exciting. I'm a big fan, obviously, of innovation. The convenience and health was the biggest surprise for me, honestly, because we've had clean label enthusiasts saying get back to raw, and now saying wait, I actually would enjoy a little bit of processing, smart processing, intelligent processing, putting into my food so that we can have quality nutrition that's still convenient. I think that's super exciting, and I think there's a lot of packaging opportunities there, certainly with that as well. All right. So we talked about three big trends: more fruits and vegetables, reduced carbs, healthier meats, and talks about hopes and dreams. And what's really interesting here is there's a strong tie between these two, right? The trends are really about the where are people focusing? What's the category of food, if you will, where people are making the most resolutions, want to have the most behavior change. And the hopes and dreams side is really about what's motivating them in the end to get to that point, right? So we really want to see what people have as hopes and dreams, what people have as trends, and start pulling them together. So more fruits and vegetables. What are ways that the fruits and vegetables can be connected to improve environmental transparency? How can you get fruits and vegetables into the home more quickly so it's more accessible? Are there ways you can balance convenience? Can you make fruits and vegetables more convenient? Can you use some more education with that, with the children, right? And is there any innovations, true innovations around fruits and vegetables that could happen in the marketplace as well? Rethinking that completely would be a great place to start. Reducing carbs, same thing. If you're going to get specific, and remember, people were trying to be really specific in terms of their carbs. So what are the types of things that you can do from a carbohydrate standpoint where you can talk about environmental transparency, because there's good and the bad side, right? So just reducing doesn't mean get rid of. It doesn't mean that all carbs are bad, though, like we had before was like, oh, sugar's the enemy. Now it's really going, well, actually, you just want better balance, better focus in your life. So how can we do that? How can we improve that convenience and health, or balance that convenience and health? And then in the meat space, again, what is truly innovative in the healthier meat space? We probably have a long ways to go in terms of really new launches that could happen this year. So excited to see those happen. But how do you connect the dots between your environmental transparency and a plant-based food? Is there a connection that hasn't yet happened today? How can we make that happen? So when we think about the innovation space and we're thinking about how can I capitalize on these particular trends, move and look at the hopes and dreams and say, can I tie one of these really strongly with my story and my message, and or how I source product, how I source ingredients if you're in the R&D space, right? How can you put that all together so that you have a innovation and a storyline for the consumers that will truly help them achieve their resolutions for the year, help them achieve their goals of a healthier lifestyle and healthier diet? Excellent. So now we have time for questions. If you've got any questions, go ahead and drop them in that question space, and I will get into the conversations. We'll see what people have got in terms of questions. Hope and a dream. We got one, plant-based eggs and egg products. Oh, hey, yeah, that actually would be pretty cool. I would love to see some plant-based egg. That would be, I don't think I've actually even seen that. That would be, I thought I was up on a lot of the plant-based stuff, but that one's new to me. So that's a cool suggestion. On the other extreme, plant-based barbecue brisket. Yeah. Well, could you imagine that? Just tender, fall apart in your mouth coming off the barbecue grill. Ooh, that would be fantastic as well. I'm all up for innovative new foods as well. All right. Any other questions coming in? More comments I see than questions. All right, snacking trend, reducing salty snacks. What else can we say about reducing salty snacks? Is there any more specificity there? Really, it was what we were seeing was a lot of desire in the snacking space for salty snacks to be replacing salty snacks. So it wasn't just straight up, I'm gonna snack less as a behavior. It was more, the resolutions were really tied more around, I wanna eat less salty snacks and have more snacking alternatives. So I think the hope for most of the people making these resolutions, as far as what we saw in the way they wrote them, really was around, are there healthier versions, are there healthier types of snack products that would be better for the diet rather than just a straight salty snack? So can we create snacks where there's a stronger focus on the nutrition rather than focus just on the, hey, salty, snacky, crunchy components of that? So certainly a lot of opportunities. Alternative snack products was a trend that we started seeing last year in terms of resolutions coming on more strongly last year. It's a little dipped a little bit this year, but not by much. I think that snacking is, it's here to stay. It's not like snacking is going away anytime soon. So what can we do to improve the types of snacks that people have? And can we take those snacks and reduce the amount of salt, or even talk about them as a reduced salt snack? Okay. Well, I think I don't see any other new questions at the moment. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time today. You're welcome to give me a phone call. You're also welcome to just drop me an email, look me up on LinkedIn, pick me any which way you want. If you have any questions, you want to see more information, just reach out. Glad to answer any questions that you might have. All right, you guys all have a fantastic day, and we'll talk with you again soon.